A quick note before we start. Everything here is gathered from public sources online, so some details may be incomplete or out of date. I'm not an expert. If you spot a mistake, please drop a comment so I can learn and fix it. Thanks for watching with an open, curious mind. Right now, inside your body, there is DNA from a kind of human we have never found. Not a skull, not a jawbone, not one fragment anywhere on Earth. Neanderthals split away from us around 600,000 years ago. This thing split away around 2 million years ago. It was far stranger to us than a Neanderthal ever was. And honestly, the weirdest part isn't that we found it. It's what happened to it afterwards. To understand what that means, you have to go back to a cave in Siberia. In 2008, archaeologists digging in Denisova cave pulled a tiny piece of bone out of the dirt, the tip of a child's pinky finger, small enough to sit on a coin. 2 years later, the DNA came back and it was wrong. It wasn't modern human, and it wasn't Neanderthal. It belonged to a population of humans that nobody knew existed. Take a second with the size of that. An entire kind of human being identified from a fingertip, which is even more absurd when you know how ancient DNA works. Most of the time you get nothing. DNA falls apart. Heat destroys it. Water destroys it. Time destroys it. The reason Denisova cave works at all is that it stayed cold enough for long enough to keep the molecules readable. They got named Denisovans after the cave. And they are not some distant curiosity. Pieces of their DNA are inside people living right now in present-day Melanesian populations, somewhere around 4 to 6%. But there was a problem. We had their genome, their entire genetic instruction manual, and we had no idea what they looked like. No skull, no face, nothing. So researchers tried something audacious. If you can't find the skull, predict it. In 2019, a team reconstructed what Denisovans probably looked like from the DNA alone. Not by digging, by reading which genes were switched on and off, and working backwards to the body those instructions would build. They produced a face, a prediction, a wanted poster for someone nobody had ever seen. And then in 2025, they found the skull. Except we'd had it the whole time. In 1933, a labourer building a bridge in Harbin in northeastern China found an enormous, strange-looking human skull. He hid it at the bottom of a well. It sat down there for 85 years. His family finally handed it to scientists in 2018. Researchers managed to pull DNA out of hardened plaque on its teeth. It matched Denisovan's. After 15 years, the ghost had a face, and the prediction had been close. Now, not everyone agrees. One of the researchers who first described that skull still doesn't think the evidence is strong enough, but most of the field now treats it as the best Denisovan skull we have. Case closed, except that is exactly when somebody looked properly inside the genome. Before we get to what they found in there, you need one more piece of this, and it's my favourite thing in the whole story. In that same cave, researchers found a bone fragment from a girl who died about 90,000 years ago. When they sequenced her, they got something nobody expected. Her mother was a Neanderthal. Her father was a Denisovan, a first-generation child, from two completely different kinds of human. She matters because she proves the thing this entire story depends on. Different kinds of humans didn't just share a planet at the same time. They met. They had families. That is the only reason any of this ends up inside you. Okay, now the genome. Researchers ran the Denisovan sequence expecting a clean read, and about 1% of it didn't belong to Denisovans at all. It was older, a lot older. Not Neanderthal old. This lineage had split away from everybody around 2 million years ago before Neanderthals. Denisovans and modern humans were even separate branches on the tree. Researchers call it super archaic. Sit with what just happened there. We spent 15 years hunting a ghost. We finally gave it a face. And inside that face's genome, there was another ghost, one that nobody has ever seen at all. No skull, no bones, no fossil anywhere on the planet. And it wasn't a one-off. The evidence points to it happening at least twice, once into the shared ancestors of Neanderthals and Denisovans, roughly 700,000 years ago, and then again, later, into Denisovans. Here's where it lands on you. About 15% of those super archaic stretches got passed onward into modern humans, and they are still sitting in the genomes of people alive today. A population that vanished before our species even existed. Still here. And this isn't one group's inheritance. Archaic DNA is scattered right across our species. Different populations carry different pieces of it. Neanderthal, Denisovans, and older things we can't put a name to, but essentially nobody is walking around with a clean sheet. The human genome is secondhand. All of it. So who were they? We can't dig them up. But the genetics does tell us a few things. We know roughly when they broke away, and we can estimate how many of them there were, an effective population somewhere in the tens of thousands. That's not a stray family wandering around, that's a people. And there is a suspect. One human species was already out there, at the right time, in the right place. Homo erectus out of Africa and spread across Eurasia before 1.8 million years ago. The paleoanthropologist John Hawkes says erectus is his best guess for who the ghost was, and he's very careful with that word, guess, because we can't check it, which produces something genuinely strange to think about. We have Homo erectus fossils, beautiful ones, the 1.8 million year old skulls from Dmanisi in Georgia, excavated Chetamers, they're catalogued for staros, photographed for said sitting in museum cases, so it's entirely possible that the ghost's face is already on display somewhere and has been for years. We just can't prove it's the same thing. And now the part I promised you at the start. As the science got better, the ghost got smaller. When researchers built more careful models, some of what had looked like super archaic DNA turned out to be something much more ordinary gene flow between Neanderthals and early African populations. Every time the models improved, a little more of the ghost dissolved into an explanation. The thing we're chasing keeps changing size while we look at it, which brings us to what a ghost lineage actually is. It isn't a discovery, and it's a calculation. It's a shape in the data where a body should be. A gap the numbers insist has to be filled by something sitting there, waiting for somebody to dig up a skeleton that either confirms it or erases it completely. And that's the honest position. It isn't a secret, and it isn't a cover-up. It's a question the fossil record hasn't answered yet. So somewhere out there, right now, there may be a hillside nobody has dug into holding the bones of a people we currently only know as a statistic. And until somebody finds them, the only place they still exist is here. If you want the other story about a single tooth that rewrote what humans are able to eat, that one's next.